as you guys notice, like in 30s, 1940s, family was a big thing. It was major. With people coming in, and people just being one, just growing as a family was always a big thing. Somehow, some way, it started to fall apart, and there was a lot of single parents out here in this world. So the question that I had is, what are the variables for the cause of single motherhood? What are the variables for the cause of single motherhood? Anton, take you first.
I think there's a lot of variables, but my biggest thing is that I think that it's unfortunate because I have to get a little bit political, but I think that politics have played a huge role in the disintegration of the Black family. And so when I say single motherhood, I think it's already understood that there are some awesome single mothers out here, right? I know some, they are great, they are phenomenal human beings. However, I think that it can be understood that a child has a better chance at being successful in life by the standards that we define success in Western society when they have two parents in the household. And when parents stay together and they raise that child in a conducive household, that child has a much better chance at being successful at life in general. However, when we talk about the breakdown of the family within our society, specifically within the urban community, I think that has been incentivized, especially from liberal Democrats, all of these programs for women to be out on their own. And I've seen and heard countless stories of, like, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say that a family gets on hard times, a family, the man, the woman, the kid, whatever. And if a woman goes down, and I don't know how it is in Chicago, but in Michigan, if a woman goes down and says, hey, I'm applying for assistance in whatever form that may be, the conversation always, the first question becomes, you single, right? Like, there's no man in the household. And then they give them insight into how they can get more by ensuring that this man is not in the household and what you need to report in order for this thing to work in your benefit and your favor. When people are put in a position to where they have to figure things out, to where they have to be responsible, when they start taking their vows seriously, till death do us part, for better or for worse, for all those things, they become better as a result of it when things are incentivized for them to stay together. That's the whole reason why you get benefits as it relates to marriage and all these things. When people start having kids out of wedlock, and then it's incentivized for a woman to go on her own, and then she can say, I can get any man I want to, and then the courts are in her favor and saying, okay, we'll give you this much money, or we'll incentivize it for you to stay single. And they're not specifically saying those things, but they're doing it by the laws and the policies that's in place for women to benefit without men. It's obvious that that's one of the biggest reasons why it's a breakdown within the family structure. It's incentivized for people to be single in order to get more from the government for them to be able to survive.
Yeah, like the welfare system, that's designed, what it's for women to be able to say, hey, I don't need a man. Before they didn't have that, and families kind of stuck together. So I can understand that point. Tawana, I want you to discuss some variables that play a role that cause single motherhood.
I guess I will say 3 choices, in my opinion. It's your own personal choice, because what happens is we will see a history or pattern of a guy that we know didn't take care of his previous kids, and then we will have a kid with him and then be surprised when he doesn't take care of it and leaves you single. So it's your own personal choice. It's a combination of that, and also education and career opportunity. So we just see a correlation with women who are educated, who have career opportunities, that have a lower, they're less likely to have many children or be a single parent, and so it's just a trend. I'm not saying that I'm not trying to bash any particular group. I'm not saying that, okay, because you're low income, you're more likely, but that is what the trends show. is that women who are more likely, and I mean, obviously, you know, in Black communities is more prominent than any other community as well. So we don't speak to that. But those are the variables, and that's just the harsh reality. The more educated you are, the more career advancement you have access to, the less likely you are to, you know, want to have children outside of wedlock and to be a single parent. And I'm not talking to women who have children and, you know, divorce and are later, you know, become single parents. No, I'm talking about, you know, just that initial start, you know, with you having children and you starting a family. And then the choices you make are impactful. And I think that sometimes we don't want to acknowledge that the choices we make put us in the situations that we are in, but they absolutely do. And you have to at some point be real with yourself and be like, you know what? Why do I keep involving myself with these type of men? Like, what's going on with me that makes me feel like these are the types of men that I need to be associated with, and this is the type of man. I know people who have children with men who have 6 other kids that he doesn't take care of, and like they had his 7th kid, and they somehow think he's gonna take care of the 7th. Like, I don't really understand the mentality when it comes to that. I know it's like, really, are you really, you know, considering even having a kid with this person? But we do. So choices, education, career opportunities, all of those play a factor.
Next, what are the variables for the cause of single motherhood?
You know what? With this particular topic, long sigh. I'm in full support with what Anton mentioned. I think that really the government, if you really think about it, almost like post civil rights movement, have really been the ones that's been involved with really deconstructing the family household. And I feel like it directly impacted Blacks. If you think about just like we mentioned earlier, welfare, government assistance. I feel the impact of drugs in our community, men being jailed. Really, if you think about the war itself, the Vietnam War, that was still also on the back end of the civil rights movement, where many men were drafted and pulled from their homes during this process because it all kind of related to this systemic deconstruction of the household. As much as Anton and I, you know, have joked in previous meetings about, I mean, you know, just who's the breadwinner, to me, the government, they're the breadwinners of the households right now, because it's really what we're dealing with right now. This was the end game. This was the outcome of the systemic deconstruction of the family, specifically the Black family, that really derives post civil rights movement. And we think about the 60s, the late 60s, 70s, and 80s, you no longer see the men as part of the household. And really, at this point right now, we live in a society where it is more than socially acceptable not to have a man in the household. You know, we always talk about college from time to time too. That impacts whether we're able to not get into college, but pay for college. Even if you're in a 2-parent household, you may not be able to financially afford college. So you're almost look at it that I'm only going to put one parent in order for me to get aid. So again, I'm really dependent upon our families, dependent upon the government. So it really perpetuates this need to stay single or not to be married in order to get the most government assistance. So I think Anton really, you know, kicked this meeting off well with just really talking about it. All this stems from the government, but right now we're at a point where the damage has been done. We're looking at decades of broken families based on the deconstruction of the household.
You know,
I guess my question before you even get into it, JR, and again, I didn't even think about it from the perspective of the war and everything like that. And I'm completely aligned with you on this one, B Nix, because you're absolutely correct. Like the war, and I didn't even factor in this particular part of the conversation, the whole financial aid systems as it relates to college and all of these other type of things. But all of that feeds into it. And then my question just becomes, you know, because I have some insight into what I think needs to change. But, you know, my question then becomes, so what is the solution? Because, you know, we realize, and I think that we're all on the same page as it relates to some of the reasons why our family structure within our communities are broke down. I'm not sure what the solution, if we all aligned on what the solutions could be, though.
Well, I think
I don't have one. I really feel that right now is, Anton, it's kind of hard to walk this back after years of just, just neglect and being purposeful on how they were able to break up the household. Right now, if you ask most people, I think somebody even mentioned on the chat, no one wants to be married. There's a whole different mindset now on how we look at family. It's not just about the blended family, but we no longer have extended families either. People are fine living single with a child or two, and that's it.
What was you going to say,
People
Jay?
engage with each other just to have the baby, not to be married.
Well, what I was going to say is there was apparently like a shift in our culture somewhere. There was a shift. And we don't really have a clear solution, but I just think that us having this conversation is definitely a start, because the people that's watching are now aware of what's been going on. And even on the show ourselves, we've learned how like the system is basically setting us up to fail when it comes to trying to keep that family together. So I just think that having these talks and just keep passing the word, and hopefully we can try to gain the culture back and focus more on trying to keep these families together and actually raising a family and actually sticking together as a family.
Ironically enough, and I'm always a dude that's in favor of men, and I'm an advocate for men, and I knew that eventually this side of me would come out as we continue to do all of these podcasts and talks. But I look at who was our heroes. And it's funny because, again, I always go back to Snoop, because Snoop was a big dude in my life as it relates to music and the impact in the 90s and all that other type of stuff. But the entire time, Snoop was married, and he had a whole family structure for all of his kids, and he was coaching Little League football and all of this other type of stuff. But he was telling all of us, yo, it ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at, part of the issue is the people that we champion as our leaders and our heroes, and those are the people that we follow behind, and those are the people that our children listen to. And so I'm just always evaluating things from within as it relates to how we view society and the people that we're holding up in high esteem as people that get a pass, man. All of these people have, in my opinion, because with great power comes great responsibility, all of these people have contributed to the downfall of our society. We always highlighted pimps. These are people that contribute to the breakdown of the family structure, which ultimately affect the power within our community, which ultimately creates a criminalized system where now you're seeing over 50 people getting shot every weekend and kids is getting hit by stray bullets. How are we not holding these people accountable within our own community and saying, yo, we need to champion this guy and not this guy?
I don't know. I think we're all conditioned, because what's funny, Anton, the fact that you mentioned Snoop and music, because the thing is, you would think that, oh, seriously, he's married? Or even you think about Ice Cube. Ice Cube, his children were homeschooled, right? But the thing is, artists, you're on the chat. So what's funny, artists had posted something about, I think a few days ago. We think about this era, right, Anton? So we talking about Snoop. It's like, did you listen to Pac or did you listen to Biggie? If you think about it, Pac was trying to tell us about the breakdown of all these different things happening in our society. But I admit, I was the one listening to Big. And the thing is, it was more so conditioning us to really move away from really the morals and values and really kind of the purpose of the Black Panthers, the purpose of the civil rights movement. We've moved so far away from that mindset of thinking it's okay to have this family structure or to be in power or to support our brothers and sisters. And now we've moved on to referencing Big, just a more lavish life, sipping champagne, this lifestyle. So I think that in order for us to maintain this lifestyle, it's almost, you can't be married. You can't have a wholesome household because you can't have both. And the thing is, it's almost like we're now looking at the impact of the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. We're children of the 80s. So the thing is like right now, what we do right now, we're not going to see the benefits of it. It will have to start right now with what we can see for future generations to come if we live long enough to see the change.
You know what's ironic about that? Because I'm glad that you mentioned Pac, because that feeds back into the previous conversation that we was having, is that when Pac first came out, Pac was highly supportive, highly a big advocate for women and Black women and community and sticking together and Brenda's got a baby and keep your head up and all of this and dear mama and so on and so forth. I think that our culture generally changed and made Pac a monster. Like, Pac evolved from that to the Snoop mentality / lifestyle over time. And it started with the whole, it seemed like, he always in his mind maintained his innocence as it relates to that rape allegation. And even when the girl came on and I seen her interview, I think it was on Vlad TV, she even said that it ain't have nothing to do with him. But then again, nobody came to his support. Nobody said, that was wrong. Nobody even remember who his accuser is. The only thing that happened was there was a clear breakdown in his whole view and perspective towards women. And then you can see that shift, and it was perpetuated later on in his career.
I think something else too that we need to bring up as far as a variable is like the push for women to be independent, the push for women to be in these manly roles. I think that is something that contributes to single motherhood.
I'm glad you said it and not me, JR, because then Tawana was looking all crazy right after you said it. If I'd have said it, it would have been some venom. But I'm glad you said it, because now I don't have to take the heat, and because she got her facial expressions looking funny after you said that one.
That feminist movement, Tawana. What you got to say about it?
I'm kind of letting y'all talk because y'all have taken over this conversation. But let me just dissect a lot of these myths. One is that women who receive public assistance don't have a man living in the house, and that the fathers are not living there or not around, because that has been a myth that has been dissected, and it is proven to be not true. Women have the men living in those households most of the time. The men are around. These kids are coming from somewhere. No, they cannot put them on paper, and there's a rebellion that you see against the system where we can't document that the man is there, but that man is there, and so I know from being a social worker and just popping up and not being able to report it, but obviously notating, hey, this man is living in the house and this father is here. So that is a whole entire myth around this whole conversation. Now, I will say that women are not married, because obviously they feel like they can be more dependent on the government than they can be on men, which is another sad reality. But, all of these different myths that you guys are proposing, especially this whole idea of, what did you say? Women being like the feminist movement causing. Now, I am not in no way, shape, or form a feminist. I'm just going to, I wanted to let the men play this out because, I don't want to jump in on a conversation I completely disagree with or have no intention on supporting. But what I'm saying to you is that I don't agree with the feminist movement. Absolutely. Like, I am not a feminist, and I used to study Black feminism in school. And I used to study that misogyny. And I do agree with some of the Patricia Hill Collins, and it's some great people that I can name, that really has some good perspectives on it. But do I agree with the feminist movement? No. And do I think that there are some issues with, creating this mentality that women have to be independent and we can't depend on men, because I think men heavily rely on women needing them. And I don't say all men, I just think that men in general like this sense of, hey, you know what, this woman needs me in some capacity. And that does create this whole thing. So if you're independent, maybe it'll be hard for you to relate with men. Yeah, I do think that the feminist movement in some ways is frowned upon. They frown upon, marriage and being together with men. And so therefore discouraging that whole union. So I do agree with that to a certain degree, I guess.
To a certain degree.
To a certain degree, you know, I agree with.
Why a certain degree?
You know, because I do agree with some of the foundations they stand on as far as, you know, equality in the workplace and, you know, equal pay and, you know, equal rights and, you know, women have been able to get access to, you know, wealth and you know, career opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise, you know, been able to get access to had that movement not taken place. So I'm not in total disagreement with everything that they think, but am I a feminist and do I identify with them? No, you know, because I definitely disagree with a lot of the mentality against men and you know, the way that they portray men. Because I'm not a hater of men. I love men, but I don't support men that don't support women. So that's never going to happen, you know? So if you are a hater of women, then you are an enemy of Tawana. So that's how it goes.
But what is a hater of women? Like, how can you identify a guy that's a hater of women?
I'll tell you, disrespectful, degrading, and if you are in any way or shape or form violent, you know, anything that I perceive to be, you know, negative as far as the way you relate to a woman, I guess, and that could be a different things, but I named the top 3. Then I will consider that, you know, a violation of me as well. So I don't separate myself from women in general, and I'm not, you know, like, oh yeah, like let me just think outside of, I am a woman, so I embrace that. I think like a woman. I want to, you know, encourage women to think that way, and I don't think that a man can tell me how to think. I just think that, you know, we have our own unique ability, and I think the same way about men. I don't think that women should tell y'all how to think and how to be either. So I just think we, you know, I have a different perspective when it comes to that.
But one of the things that you said that was a myth, that I don't think was a myth, because the way you described it, it actually aligns more closely with what B. Nix and I was saying, was that, yeah, women do have guys in the household, but they're still incentivized not to get married because then they would lose that benefit. And that's what I was saying.
About single motherhood, probably. I mean, I do understand, and I did acknowledge that. I'm not saying that they are married in most cases, because most times it's not, even though in those public, and I don't want to speak too much because I do really think about it, because I am in that profession, so I don't ever want to connect it. But I want to say that, you know, in those, we cannot tell if you're married. Like, you know, it's not like
I understand, but I think that
like we can prove it. You know, it's not.
I understand. And I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think the point that we was just making is that, you know, the fact that women know, it's almost like, you know, when I got married, it was not a plan B. Like plan B was the complete plan A. You know what I'm saying? And it's almost like when you know you got this card in your back pocket just in case, it's a different perspective as it relates to how you approach a relationship, because you know that this information is available and I'm going, you know what I'm saying? So I just think that in general, not even just from an incentivized, from a welfare perspective, but again, how B. Nix emphasized the whole, even, you know, the college applications and the assistance as it relates to that, and whether or not you get so much, so on and so forth. I think in just a general sense, without, and I'm not sure how intentional it was or not, because I wasn't there when when legislation and policies was passed, but I just know that there's an incentive in general for families not to be families in order for you to get the most out of whatever it is that you're trying to get.
Okay, you get increased subsidy the more children you have. Yes, I will say that. But what about the women who can't relate to this at all? Like the single mothers who are not on public assistance and we get no benefit from it. Like we're not on any type of welfare. Like I don't understand the connection. So I'm trying to relate it back because I don't know
a single, I have never met a single mother that was under a certain threshold as far as financially, that wasn't
you met me right today, because I have not.
Hold on, let me finish.
Never.
Let me finish. I have not met a single mother that was under a certain threshold that wasn't either A, getting some form of welfare or public assistance, or
Nope.
B, getting some form of child support.
Nope. And nope.
But wait. But at the same time, but hold on, wait. But wait, Tawana, you're above a certain threshold is my point. That was the very first point that I made.
There's a lot of single mothers that can relate to me as well. And our demographic and population are probably relating to me. I understand that there is a population of low-income women who do benefit from having more children, right? You get increased subsidy, you get more stamps, or you may have access to cash benefits or something like that. Is it enough to supplement a man? No, in my opinion, it's absolutely not. So why is it that women are more dependent on the system than they are on men? Maybe that's the conversation we need to have.
Yeah, but I think that was the part where I think Anton kicked this off, where really this is an evolution. Right now in 2020, this is an evolution of how the government has found various ways in order to infiltrate our families and then break them apart. Because now we're talking about it from the aspect from a normal aspect to everybody on this call. Oh, well, I won't say everyone, but the thing is, it's more normal now for someone to be single versus back in the early 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s. Families, yeah, they did stick together, but the thing is, there were very intentional functions that took place in which our government was directly involved that negatively impacted our families. So that's the part where right now, I get that there are different situations as to why people are single right now, but I feel that going back to the root cause goes back to really the approach that the government took with just how they broke up our household. But the thing is, I just want to swing this back to a few comments that goes beyond Anton. Anton, you good with me right now? I need to bring that back to the brother JR. And the thing is, with these manly roles, right? And the thing is, this goes back to a whole nother direction on why you think folks are single. I interpreted that, JR, that you mean that, you know what? Women are at the workplace taking on these manly jobs. I don't know how you define manly jobs, and maybe I'm the appropriate language police. But when you say something like that around me as far as proper messaging, it gives the stigma. It creates this level of bias, societal norms, and so on, where I feel that, that's also another reason why this may be an issue that people may have. Because are you saying that women should not be at the workplace? Because technically, before, you think about before the civil rights movement going into like the war and the big deal back in the 1940s, women were stay at home. So it may be some men out there that may simply say that, if women would just not work and let a man be a man, then the families could be together. There's some men that don't want a woman to work or take on these manly jobs. So, Brother JR, can you explain what you meant about these manly jobs that women are taking on and how this relates to why, the topic itself?
I was just talking about the feminist movement as a whole. Obviously, this is bigger than us. I feel as though the system is painting its own narrative. So back in the 1930s, 1940s, family was a big deal. Women stayed at home. And somehow, like, the culture changed, and it just kept changing, just kept getting worse. Ideally, I would like for the woman to stay at home and for the man to be like the breadwinner and go out and work. But because the way the system is, everything's expensive, jobs, everything that's going on now, it's kind of hard to actually, live that. And it's a whole cultural change, period. So when I say that, that it contributes to single motherhood, yeah, I think the whole system as a whole, which we all agree, is just changing the whole culture of how we think about being a family, being one. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. But it does create now another aspect in which I'm thinking from, that I think there's a lot of vulnerable men, or I think, what was the term y'all use? Women haters or something, hater of women. And I think there are some men that are haters of women that don't like women in the workplace. And they may feel that that's part of the issue, that women technically need to be at home and they are the ones that are contributing as to why they're single. because they shouldn't be working. There are haters of women that look at the world from that viewpoint. Not to say you all are haters of women, but they do exist.
I'm not a fan of women working.
Yeah,
I'm
I
right
have
away.
a problem of a.
Here we go. Here we go. You know what, Anton? You always find a way for us to do this disconnect. You
But
was
no,
really on board. I
but
give you all your
context
props,
matters.
man. But
Context matters.
It's
Like,
important. It all leads up to that, though. It all leads up.
no. So context matters.
You support one thing, it all leads up to the.
No, context matters. So like, let me give you some insight. So like, for example, women's bodies just naturally are not built to take on the load and the things that men take on as it relates to some jobs. Now, I'm not saying that women shouldn't work. I think that women should not take on the level of burden that men take on in the workplace. So like, for example, I don't want to see certain women like in a war, you know what I'm saying, on the field. I don't want to see women, you know, as linemen, as the repairmen of these facilities where there's a higher expectancy of death related to, you know, the issues in that situation.
I'm serious, right? Like, this is a serious conversation that we have in JR.
Hold
like
on.
you.
Let me finish. Okay. I don't want to see. I don't want to see women lifting heavy things when it comes to construction. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that your bodies are built for the level of impact that men's bodies build on. So what I do, or what's empowered within my relationship, is I'm going to take on the overwhelming majority of burden when it comes to bringing in income. Now, what I do is say, let me empower you to be able to do whatever it is that you want to do. If you want to work, I want you to work, but I don't want you to be required to do the level of things that I have to do to ensure that we're okay. Work, but do something that's fulfilling to you, or do something that's conducive to what you feel like continues to contribute to our family structure, or do something that's passionate for you. I'm not saying that women shouldn't work, but I'm saying that what we define as work for women should not be required in the same way that it's required from men. I don't know how you can disagree with that.
all right, here we go. You know what? I retract my statement. Maybe we do have haters of women that are part of this call tonight, but
You think that's a hater of a woman?
who see, again, this goes back to the aspect of privilege where, again, men don't realize the level of privilege they have. Who are we as men to say what type of jobs women should work and women should not work?
I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't work any specific job. I'm saying that naturally, because I'm physically more gifted as it relates to the amount of impact and stress that my body can take just from being a man. That's just the way that we were built. There's things that I'm going to be better at than some women, overwhelmingly. And that's a fact. Like, men are going to be able to take more as it relates to construction. Men are going to be a lot more effective when it comes to the stress that our bodies can take as linemen. Men are going to be more impactful when it comes to the wars that have been fought historically on the battlefield. That's not saying that I'm a woman hater. That's saying that I want to empower women to be able to do the things that they're best at. I think that women are overwhelmingly better than us at nurturing. For example, there's women that are, and I'm not saying that men can't be nurses, but women have historically, even in societies where they've tried to even the playing field in the healthcare field, women are better doctors. Women are better nurturers. They're better nurses. And that's just one example. So what I'm saying is, I think that women should overwhelmingly be looking to embrace the things that they love and that they truly want to do, versus trying to equal the playing field and saying, it's this many construction workers, so we need this many construction women. I think that people should just naturally evolve and migrate to the spaces where they're overwhelmingly talented in. That's not hating women. That's saying, I want to empower you to be the best version of you.
Now,
all right, I just got one comment I want to make. Go ahead, Tawana.
You all see why the disparity exists between men and women, and why people don't report abuse. This is the type of thing he's perpetuating. This entire masculine, oh, a man can do it better and he's the forefront. Like this is exactly why. No, this is exactly why that whole conversation that we talked about prior to this exists, because of that type of mentality and thinking. Just in general, I'm just saying.
Like I just felt like more women would probably appreciate that. I mean,
okay, well, no, because every woman don't want to be defined by what you believe a man.
Well, now, but
don't believe that.
But if we take it back, but if we take it back to the 1940s, when families were staying together, when everything was based on the family, it worked. But now, since times has changed, now women, they want to do more. Like they want to be equal across the board. And we don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying that wouldn't it be nice to be able to just sit back at the house, relax, focus on the kids, not to have any worries or doing anything, streams on your body, and just let the man do it. I don't see anything.
Hey, oh my God. Hey, I'm sorry, Jay, to cut you off, man. Hey, man, this is crazy right now, man. I don't know. I must live on another planet because I don't follow nothing you just said, man. I really don't. And I wasn't really trying to steer it in that direction, but y'all definitely kicked me in the door.
I'm not saying women can't do it, but I'm just saying, like, wouldn't it be nice?
That's what you are saying, though.
No, I never said women couldn't do it.
What we're saying is that women should have the option of whether or not they want to work or they don't. Nobody is saying that women can't work. We're saying that we want to empower you to do the things that you want to do versus doing the things that we have to do as providers in the relationship. I don't see how that's dominating.
And the reason I brought up about the 1940s, because I was talking about like the New Deal, Roosevelt, the economy, because it was about to be another depression because of the fact that folks was about to go to war. So that was the time when they started having more billboards and more jobs for women to go to work. That's when this all came up at the back end of Franklin Roosevelt's time in office. And that's when women began to go into the workplace. So the thing is,
because they had to. They didn't do it because they wanted to. It's a difference. You can look in the pyramids. Marshawn right away was like, I'd love to have a man to do that. Don't nobody want to be required to have to work.
That's her choice, but don't expect all women to feel that way.
So don't expect women to.
I would like to leave it there. It's a choice.
Wait. So, Tawana, you're saying don't expect all women to want to have the option of whether or not they want to work or not?
Yeah. Don't expect that. Because some women want to. Like some women,
that's their option. Then they can do it. That's my whole point.
That's not true. Some women, we're passionate about what we do and we want to do these things. Like that.
And then you can do it. That's my whole point, is that you have an option. You're not made to.
To create a lane for me. I went to school to get my
Check it out.
The thing is, the reason I bring this up, because there's a group of men that truly feel, going back to why women are single, they feel that they're single because of the fact that they wasn't working, then they could be at home and be part of a family. So now it makes it seem like women are single, like it's their own fault because the fact that they're working and they're independent. So the man is no longer needed and the man is still invulnerable.
We're just saying that it's a variable. It's a variable. I mean, we can actually prove that. It's a variable. It happens. That's all we say.
Well, you know what? Yeah, it's a choice. I just know I don't want no woman to set the career, bro. Maybe I'm speaking for myself.
For me to say that women should have the option of whether or not they want to work or not versus being required to do something, whether they want to or not, is not women hating. That's empowering women to be the best version of themselves. Anybody that see that any differently is nuts.
Well, you know what? I don't want to work either, Anton. I don't. I don't. But I think that in our society, you have to work. In order to secure the bag, you have to work. Because trust, I don't want to work either. I'm tired. I don't want to work. But the thing is, I don't think that's realistic. That's why this is not the 1940s. Because the thing is that's not and if it is a realistic option, that's great for them or for the couple. But I know for a fact, my personal preference, I don't want nobody that's not working, man. Not in my house.
It's realistic because my girl, she don't have to do nothing. And when she wants to do something, when she finds something that she wants to go into, a specific subject or a career that she says is passionate for her because she felt like that adds value to people's lives and it helps her to be more fulfilled in what she wants to do, then she's empowered to do that. But she's not required to do the things that I do in order to ensure that we're successful. We're going to be successful regardless, but when she gets passionate about something, I want her to have the option to do that. That's more loving than anything that Tawana is saying is woman hating.
First of all,
I don't even know if it's woman hating. It's a choice, bro.
So this is the thing. B. Nick said that, but he want to come at me. Like, go ahead, challenge this man, because that's who told you that. So why don't you talk to him?
B. Nick's never said that was woman hating.
But you can challenge me though, big
because
old man.
You said it's woman hating.
You can come at me.
I just wanted clarity. I wanted clarity.
It don't matter how loud you get. It don't matter how loud you get. Lower your voice, strengthen your argument. That's what you need to do instead of worrying about what the narrative is being said. You need to focus on what you're saying and making sure it's right.
He not gonna get me emotionally charged. Like, I know you trying to do that and you think that's gonna poke fun, and I done been called worse. So it's all right. Let's just let you know that B. Nick said that to you. Let's play the tape
B. Nick
back.
did not say I'm a woman hater.
Didn't say nothing
That's
to
what
him.
you said.
I did put it out there.
You're a woman don't mean I'm gonna let you off the hook for it. It is what it, you. If you want equal rights, I got the same smoke for you as I got for B. Nick's as I would have for JR. It's an equal opportunity smoke fest.
My issue was really with JR, with his like perspective about the manly jobs or whatever the hell you called it. But
it's not manly job. You keep bringing that up. I'm not
you
saying
said that. You said that. I didn't say that, brother.
This movement as a whole is taken away from families sticking together. That's what I said. That was my argument.
But see, this supports what Anton is talking about. Cause then, what's defined as a manly job, and what's a womanly job then?
No, I'm just talking about the feminists. You keep focusing on just that aspect of it. I'm just talking about the movement as a whole. Like the
Bro,
argument,
I'm focused on what you said. You said what you said.
Okay. So I guess we're gonna agree to disagree on this too, right?
Always. You know how it go, fam.
Every time. Every time. That's why we're here now.